This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV.com, and my special guest today is a diva that's very well known in the wrestling business, multiple-time Shimmer Women's Athletes champion, former TNA Impact Wrestling star. She's wrestled all over the world. She's received Cauliflower Alley Club Future Legends Award. Cheerleader Melissa Anderson, how are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
No problem. It's a pleasure to have you on. I was actually surprised. I hadn't followed your career for a while, but I went to look up pictures of you to use as the screenshot of this interview, and I was surprised to see you've gone into the more risque photo shoots now, because I remember you more innocent.
I don't think I was ever more innocent. I think I was just more conservative in the wrestling world, on the wrestling side, but I wouldn't say I was ever like more innocent.
And I noticed there's some photos of you like in almost goth style outfits. Is that a side of you that exists?
I think that's a side of me that exists. And, ever since I moved to Las Vegas, I've been able to like meet people and have opportunities to like do those gorgeous, elaborate photo shoots. And, if I lived anywhere else, I think it'd be a lot harder to find studios to partner with to execute that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you had some nice bling on in those photos as well.
Some bling?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Thanks. I had to make sure I heard you right. I'm like, do you say bling?
What brought you out to Las Vegas? I know you were originally in the Arizona area because Bill Anderson, who I've interviewed at one point, you guys were doing the gimmick where you were like his daughter, right? And he's from Arizona as well.
Well, I never lived in Arizona. The whole Bill Anderson thing basically came about. My dad and Bill Anderson wrestled as a tag team in the 80s in Southern California. So no, I never lived in Arizona. Bill Anderson lives in Arizona now, but no, I've never lived there. But yeah, Bill Anderson is, my uncle in the wrestling business.
Well, let me set the record straight then. Why don't you tell us a bit about your childhood and where you grew up?
You don't find this boring? No, I'm kidding.
Our fans love to know that type of thing.
Well, I mean, I guess I could say my story is a little bit unique. When you have a dad, or anytime someone has a parent in the wrestling business, as a kid, you go to events and you watch your dad wrestle. And then, it's normal for wrestlers to be coming over to the house, or, I remember they used to shoot promos in the backyard and do like a barbecue all the time. So I was just really fortunate to kind of grow up in the wrestling business. It was just kind of a part of my life and, my relationship with my dad growing up. Billy Anderson had a wrestling school in San Bernardino, and I started training just for fun, super young, just for fun. Never did my wildest dreams I imagine it would like turn into a career and go the directions it has taken me. But that's where that started, and I'm very grateful for it. And it's just kind of lead me on like this, really crazy journey.
And I also understand you were an amateur wrestler back in high school, and at that time there was a lot less women's amateur wrestling going on. Is that true that you used to do that before pro?
Yes, that's true. I was one out of 4 girls on my high school wrestling team. We were all in different weight classes though, so we never got to like really train with each other. We always had to train with people within our own weight class. And and our wrestling team was large. I remember it was like ridiculously large. It was like a group of like 60 kids, on our team, and we had a really good team. I can't say that like I did well in particularly. I feel like I got my ass kicked a lot, but I mean, that was just always, I was kind of always a tomboy, like growing up. I actually tried to be a part of the football team, and they wouldn't let me be part of the football team, but I don't know. Wrestling was okay, so go figure.
Yeah. Were you wrestling males then or females?
Males, yeah.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it
That's
was co-ed.
incredible.
Yeah, it was co-ed, and it was difficult, but it was really good. And anybody to breaking into pro wrestling, I almost recommend it because it gives you so many like great basics and great mat skills that you would just naturally incorporate into pro wrestling anyway.
Now, I remember in my high school wrestling, there was girls against girls, guys against guys, but in the practices, they wouldn't happen with me because I was heavyweight, but the girls would wrestle the guys. It was usually very appropriate. Did you ever have any instances that were uncomfortable in those matches or practices?
No, never uncomfortable whatsoever. We had a really great team, and everybody treated everybody very well and very respectfully. So, I mean, no, I'm very lucky.
So starting as young as you did in pro wrestling, was the extra money kind of nice?
What money? What kind of question is that?
I don't know. Well, in pro wrestling,
Nice.
what, $50 for an indie match?
What money? Really? $50? Or like starting? Like 20 years ago? Come on, give me a break.
Well, what's interesting is the pay really hasn't gone up in 20 years for indie wrestling.
Not really. No. No, it hasn't.
So what are some of your memories of those early matches? Were the ladies accepting of you?
Didn't really have any females really to train with. But yeah, like my first wrestling match after I had a good like couple years of training was with Lexi 5, and that was in Douglas, Wyoming. And gosh, and I think that was actually on like my 17th birthday that happened. And wrestled her, and like, basically wrestled a little bit in Southern California here and there. Also started off getting my name out there as being a manager for the Ballard brothers. They do a hockey gimmick or a hockey character. Little did I know that there's no cheerleaders in hockey, but hey, cheerleader Melissa for a hockey team, why not? And then we used to, as a group, we used to like go to Northern California and work for All Pro Wrestling. And the reason why that was so significant is because at that time, the training at All Pro Wrestling was really impressively good. Like we would meet people or students that were on the wrestling shows. They are wrestling in the ring like, 7-8 year veterans. And we would ask them, how long you've been training for? And they said, oh, a little over a year. We're like, what? So I remember thinking like, what kind of training is going on here that like they're that advanced that quickly? So that was like my motivation to move to Northern California and being part of All Pro Wrestling.
Now, All Pro Wrestling, that was Roland Alexander's company, wasn't it?
That sure was. He sure was.
Now, is he as bizarre a character as they portrayed in Beyond the Mat?
Gosh, and I haven't seen Beyond the Mat. I think, yeah. I mean, Roland is Roland, and he's, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Like he was clearly somebody who was stuck in his way, and he had his own like hardcore like opinions about everything in the business. And he had his very strong opinions about the way training should be, which was definitely like a boot camp style. Yeah, I mean, eclectic, but isn't everybody in the wrestling business a little crazy?
And obviously, you trained at UPW, Rick Bassman's school, that at one time was a development territory for WWE. How was that experience? I know you had one negative experience there, but Rick apparently wasn't aware of it. And knowing him, I don't think he would have approved of what happened to you at that time.
No, and you know what? And looking back, because early on, see, you go back 20 years, I'm sure you'll agree with me that everybody, it was definitely a much rougher industry back then, especially towards the new people, and I feel like it was a little bit harder for women too, because you have men out there and you have trainers out there that are like, shut your mouth and know your role or whatever. And I just wish back then, I would have been a more like aware, like, oh, maybe Rick Bassman probably didn't realize that his trainer, didn't allow me to practice because I was a female. Probably wasn't aware of that. But, when his pro trainer at the time said I couldn't train with the pro class because I was a girl and girls only belong in the beginner class, that was like really upsetting for me. And then, I just, kept my mouth shut because, if that's the trainer, if that's Rick Bassman's trainer, then I kind of figured, well, I guess that's what Rick wanted, but as time went on, now I realize like, yeah, there's no way like Rick would have like known about something like that, but I mean, that was my, one negative experience with UPW, and it was just very frustrating. And the reason why that was so significant was because I couldn't train the pro class, so I had like no chance to like advance. Rick was or WWE was the Attitude Era, so everybody just like, looked like supermodels and had like, massive cosmetic surgeries and whatnot. Oh, I don't think I was even 18 yet. So like I was nowhere. I wasn't even like grown up yet. And then on top of that, like I wasn't allowed to like manage the Balor brothers at UPW. So it's like I hit so many brick walls over there. And that's why I was just like, F it. I'm going to Northern California.
And at one point, I guess you did something with Tough Enough. What Tough Enough would that have been?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that. Where are you finding these facts?
The fans actually had a lot of questions, and they have tons of questions on here for you now, but I'll get into the fan questions after.
Okay. I feel like I think it was the first one, and then I remember I came to Las Vegas, and didn't make it all the way through, but I did like very well in like the first half of it. And then I remember it was after the first Tough Enough, I went to Japan and came back. And then actually somebody from Tough Enough actually approached me about applying for the second one because they were looking for women with a little more experience now, because I guess like too many, like I guess in the first season, too many quit too fast, like right away. And then, so I think I applied, and then I had too much experience because I went to Japan. So I was just like, like neither one worked out.
Now, how was the experience of going over to Japan, and who was your hookup for bringing you over there the first time?
It was Jessica Soto. She wrestles in Japan as Bionic J, and she was a Bay Area original. She came back to the Bay Area from Japan because you kind of have to, like, once your visa expires, and then you have to go back. And then she came to All Pro Wrestling to check out the talent, and that's how I met her. And I'm very grateful. She gave me connected me with, at the time it was Arceon, promoter Rossi Ogawa, and then I went out there for 3 months.
What was that experience like? It's got to be a much different culture than over in California.
Much different culture, but such a great culture. It was such a great experience. I mean, like, if I didn't have any connections back home. If I didn't have any like family or connections back home, I mean, that certainly would be like my country of choice to live in. But it is such a wonderful place to be.
Now, we've heard all the stories of the Yazuka, or I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yakuza,
yeah, taking the male wrestlers out for fancy dinners and to massage parlors and stuff. Did you have any experiences like that?
Yeah, we weren't taken to massage parlors, but no, but there were plenty of dinners that we were treated to and we were taken to, and they were lavish, wonderful dinners with like never-ending food and never-ending drinks all night long. I mean, so that was fun, and that was a little bit different, just having to be prepared to attend that after a show. Usually after the show, people want to hang out and wind down a little bit, or go to bed nonetheless. So it's definitely like a different mode.
Were you ever a partier? I know there's a lot less partying in wrestling now, but you and I started around the same time. There was more probably when you started.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I wouldn't say I was like a hardcore partier, but there was definitely some like, crazy, like amazing parties and events, where people have connections, and that's really what it is. It's people have connections, and they get you into like these high-end places, and next thing you know, like you have your own private room in like a big giant club that's like on top of a skyscraper, and everybody's just like partying all night long, and it's just definitely had my fair share of like good times.
You see a lot of divas and male wrestlers dating each other nowadays. Did you ever have a relationship with another wrestler, or did you stay away from that?
I stay away from that.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it works out more often than not. Of course, there's some cases that it does.
Yeah, I say more. I mean, it doesn't. It's tough. Like I think in more cases, like it doesn't work out. But I thoroughly enjoy and appreciate the couples that it does work out. Like my best friends, Taya and Johnny. I was a part of their wedding, and they're clearly doing wonderful and doing great. Like Maria Canella is like, I got to like see their wedding, and it was just beautiful, and they're doing great. So it's just very nice. Wrestling's like one big family, and it's really nice to, see the relationships that do work out.
The big news of the day today, I don't know if you've heard it, is I know when you were on Rick Bassman's Talking Tough podcast a few months ago, that Speaking Out subject came out, and now we're hearing that Joey Ryan is suing all of his accusers for millions of dollars and lost income. I'm sure you may have had some interactions with Joey over the years. I was just wondering your thoughts on that whole situation.
Honestly, you want to know what's the first thing that came to my mind? I think I decided that I'm going to make a formal announcement on social media that I'm going to be suing COVID-19 for losing all my bookings of 2020. That's what I'm going to be doing.
Yeah, I mean, that also has to do with it too. Like, there is no bookings for 2020 if you want.
No, there's not. I was just like, that's the first thing that came to my mind. I'm like, well, okay, if he's going to do that, well, then I'm going to sue 2020. I'm going to sue COVID-19 because I'm not doing anything this year. Because of COVID-19, I'm not doing anything.
Unless you're in a major company with TV, there's little to nothing.
There's little to nothing. And to be honest, my parents are older, and we see our parents regularly, and I'm just not willing to take that risk right now. Even if I was signed with a TV company, I'd probably have to say adios.
Exactly. And you've been over to Europe quite a bit in your career too. Could you share with us any memories from wrestling over there? I know we have one fan from England that's already checked in here today and said hi to you.
Oh, nice. Hello. Memories from Europe. Okay. Way too many roundabouts. I think that was the one thing like I couldn't stand about Europe was all the roundabouts. It was just roundabout after roundabout. Um, I think I loved England. I'm definitely more of a city kitty, so I loved being a city and I loved England. And then I don't, as far as like wrestling wise, I don't have a negative memory whatsoever. That was just that was a great time.
And as far as your time in TNA, everyone remembers that you managed Awesome Kong, among other things. Could you share with us how you got booked over there and some of your fondest memories from that run?
So that was I remember getting booked there. It was a little interesting because you know, Kong Kong and I were friends. But what happened was is Dutch Mantel, who is mainly like the agent for the women, he had this image, he had this view of a Middle Eastern female being Awesome Kong or Amazing Kong. No, it was Awesome, yeah. Awesome Kong manager. Amazing Kong was in Japan. And when he was explaining this to her, um, funny story, I had already done that same character backstage for WWE prior to that. So it's, you know, Dutch came up with this character that like I've already kind of done or tested the waters with WWE. So basically when Kong told Dutch that we were in contact, and then basically I did a promo of the same character and I was brought in, and you know, luckily like it worked out for a couple of years.
And as far as the backstage environment at TNA at that time, how was it? I think a lot of the tapings, if not all of them, were in Orlando, right?
Yeah, they were all in Orlando, and yeah, it was all in Orlando. Dixie was always there. It was Dutch Mantel, who was like one of the writers, and then Vince Russo was the other writer, and then Vince Russo was more um, was just like pretty much everybody else. I think Dutch had the females um, and the X division, I believe. But for the most part, like it was a really, really, you know, good environment. I would say like the only downside to it was, you know, having it be like in the same studio at Universal. You're not always going to get a dedicated wrestling crowd every single time. You know, you're going to get a lot of like first timers, and you know, they're just, you know, bringing in people, you know, to watch and be a part of the show. You know, and it kind of takes a little of the excitement away from going to town and being in front of a crowd that's like genuinely excited to be there. So I would say that was like one of like the little downsides of just being in the same studio every time. But I mean, it was just, you know, a great cast, a great crowd overall.
And that would have been probably in one of Impact's more popular years, probably 2007 to 2010 was probably their
Hmm.
biggest years. So you were there at its peak. You worked, I guess, didn't Awesome Kong feud with Angelina Love at one point there? How did you find working with her?
Great. Yeah. Angelina Love and Velvet Sky and the Beautiful People. Uh, Super great heels. I mean, they had their act down, and they did very well. I would say they were, you know, one of the more over heels of the company for sure.
And German lady has a comment on here saying she used to enjoy your matches for Shimmer, where you were a two-time Shimmer champion, as well as a multiple-time Shimmer tag team champion. Someone has it online that you're a five-time Shimmer champion, but you got that sorted out. But you were there a long time. Could you
Yeah.
share with us some of your memories of Shimmer?
Shimmer is great, and I'm like one of the originals of Shimmer. I mean, there's just so many directions with like the memories to go in. But it's just crazy how over the years, how it grew, and it was just absolutely insane. Like, how big the crowds got, and those, while they were fun memories, they were also very, 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 very long weekends because it was 4 tapings in 2 days. So, you got Saturday, a taping during the day and a taping during the evening, same thing on Sunday. And let me tell you, when you're on all 4 shows and you get down to that like last taping, it is so brutal. Like everybody's tired, they're sore, they barely want to move. They could barely move during the 3rd taping. And then like we're trying to get through like the 4th. So I would say that while it's some of my best memories, it's also the brutal ones too.
Follow-up question from German lady, and I'm going to pronounce this lady's name wrong, but she's asking, was Rhaka Khan as much of a problem backstage as the news outlets reported back then?
Oh, she was a handful, but no comment.
Dino Bravo, obviously from the grave, saying you were the top PWI women's wrestler of 2013. That must have been an honor for you.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing, and that was so great, and that was really unexpected too. Like that was like one of my years where like I honestly thought that like I was pretty like close to retirement that year. I was going to call it like my last year. And it was just like one of those years where like good thing after good thing after good thing after good thing, like just kept on happening. And I'm just like, what is going on? And then like, yeah, it was just a really unexpected positive year for me.
And as far as your WWE tryouts, obviously it's a lot easier to get a WWE contract now than when you were breaking in. There's so many more jobs for women. And as women get older, it's obviously harder to get the jobs because they always want to sign both men and women in their 20s. Do you think you would have had a better chance if it had been the same landscape as it is now back when you were having your tryouts?
Yeah, I think it would have been much better. Every time I had a WWE tryout, I say the same thing every time. I was always applying for a job that never existed. I would be I would show up and like some of the tryouts I went to, it was just all women who weren't in the wrestling business, and they would get them in the ring and move them around the ring. And it would look like it pretty much would look like their first time ever stepping inside a ring at all. And then I would get in and I'm, doing well and throwing down with Fit Finley and just complete the opposite. But it's, what WWE was in the market for, and they were in a different direction. And, I just simply didn't, fit what they were looking for.
There's a few people asking about your Lucha Underground experience. Rico says he enjoyed your character in Lucha Underground and would love to see a variation of it in another promotion.
That'd be great. I mean, the thing with Lucha Underground is that it's not a wrestling company, it's a television show, and people forget about that. We're not, wrestlers, we're all like talent, and we're cast members, and we're seasonal, and we may or may not get picked up for another season. So I think it would be great if the market was strong enough for a product like Lucha Underground to be an actual television wrestling company and be consistent every day with that kind of product. I think the only thing that's a little tough is that it's very niche-y. It's a very, very niche product. So to be able to have that kind of, support and, gain the consistent revenue to keep something like that going would certainly be very, very challenging.
Catherine Dixon wants to know about your Alissa Flash gimmick that was used in TNA. Why didn't it go further?
Why didn't it go further?
That's what she's saying. Not that you have control over that.
No, I don't have control over that. But basically, it was just a time. But it was a unfortunate. It was an unfortunate timing incident. Long story short, towards that's when Hulk Hogan was coming into the picture, and soon as he did, he basically, like anybody's contract that was expiring or about to expire, pretty much like just got let go right away. So like it was Sojourner Bolt and me that got like let go right away, just because our contracts were about to end. And Hogan is also known for like not being a supporter of female wrestling in general anyway. So it was just kind of inevitable that the women's division was going to suffer during that time period.
D Train wants to know if you have any fond memories or moments of Hana Kimura. Obviously, she unfortunately passed, as everyone knows, earlier this year.
Yeah, that was just so hard because I knew her mother. I've wrestled her mother, hung out with Hana several times. We all went together to the beach and like we hung out outside the dojo. So that was extremely hard and very difficult to swallow. That it's always the people that you least expect to go that route, just because you couldn't find anyone just more happier and just very sweet, just genuinely like a happy girl, and like her and her mom were so great. So it's very shocking and it's just very tragic. And there's a lot of us that still don't want to believe it.
There's a fan on here asking if you would ever work for Great North Wrestling, which is our company here in Canada. Unfortunately, the border's closed, but maybe
I was just gonna go there.
Lufitso is our champion up here now. Have you ever wrestled her?
Gosh, I wrestled her a billion times. Yeah, I was just gonna say up there in Canada, really. Canada doesn't want us up there.
It's actually ridiculous. Like, I guess there was some people that said they were going to go to Alaska and just like stayed in Canada recently, and it literally made national news that these Americans were like tainting our country. It was pretty bad.
What?
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, you're allowed to go across the border if you say you're driving to Alaska, and these people lied, and they actually just went on vacation, and that made news all over the country how terrible these people were to put our whole country at risk. So it's sad that it's coming to that. I hope they open the borders.
I don't see how they're going to open the borders to us soon. All the nonsense that's happening here, like, I'm not going to blame Canada or any other country for wanting to let us back in. I wouldn't let me back in.
Well, how have the riots been where you are? Have you been safe at least?
Well, definitely safe. Barely left the house since lockdown, so barely. So whatever activity along the lines of what you're describing, I have not experienced or seen in person at all whatsoever. But to be honest, it out here in Las Vegas, I haven't heard anything as severe as like in other areas. It was pretty devastating because we're from San Francisco, so it was pretty devastating to see footage of people of things being torn apart in downtown, in the area like grew up and shopped in and stuff like that. So that was like really tough to see. But as far as out here in Las Vegas, like I haven't seen anything intense as what's going on in other parts of the country.
Another person from England here, Rex46, asking which is the favorite character you enjoyed playing and your best experience in the wrestling industry.
Well, probably Raisha Saeed, because I'm lazy and I didn't have to wrestle. But Mariposa, I think was fun and entertaining. You know, that was more fun. You know, it was more of a character, and the mask, and I had like the hair and the outfit and everything. And the company like really treated everybody very well. They took care of all of us so well. So overall, I would say like the most fun and the best experience was Lucha Underground.
Now, this is another name I'm going to butcher, but someone is asking what it was like wrestling Mariko Yoshida. Is she tougher than the Kongs?
Tougher than Kong?
Yes.
Is that what she asked? Tougher than Kong?
I'm not sure if you can read it at the bottom of the screen. Is she tougher than? Maybe they misspelt and put the.
Oh my gosh! It's like the font is like 0.8. Yeah, and now I see the questions. I didn't. Oh, okay. What was it like wrestling Mariko Yoshida? Is she tougher than the Kongs? I mean, there's Kong, there's Amazing Kong, and there's Aja Kong. Maybe that's like what they mean. Anyway, I would say like a different type of tough. Mariko, man, she was my trainer in Japan in 2002, and she is legit. Like, she can grapple. We brought her out to All Pro Wrestling, and we had her participate in class, and she like out grappled every single guy in that class. And yeah, she was just no joke. And it's funny because she's the sweetest looking, like, petite person, but total badass in the ring. Complete badass.
Walter Johnson wants to know what wrestling companies, if any, do you watch now?
Not much.
What would you do to like revitalize wrestling? Because we know it's in a bit of a slump right now. WWE might be more profitable than ever due to all these sources of revenue they have, but it seems like you don't see as many wrestling t-shirts on the street as you used to, and you don't hear about people talking about it as much as like when you were breaking in.
Was that a question? I thought you were just like telling me what's going on right
No,
now.
I was like wondering, like, because of all, like, we see that interest is lower. Like, what is like something you would do to like revitalize?
Something I would do to revitalize. Oh, well, that's just really tough right now with like, I think that's just like a really difficult question because we're going through COVID right now, and it's also an election year, and there's so much drama going. Like, there's just so much attention on that. Gosh, it would be a lot easier if there wasn't so much drama going on everywhere else politically, and everybody is, currently probably thinking about their job situation or, paying the bills every month. I mean, honestly, I don't see it improving until the economy improves. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and until a vaccine comes out, they're probably not going to allow shows in front of full audiences again.
No, yeah, I mean, and even like, the couple shows I do watch, it doesn't have the same, feel as, a live, having a live crowd present. It's definitely, definitely different. I mean, it feels like an upscale custom show.
Someone wants to know if Mickie James was a tough opponent.
Heck yeah, she was. She's one of the toughest girls I know.
Have you ever wrestled Taylor Hendricks?
Huh?
Have you ever wrestled Taylor Hendricks?
No, I have not.
Interesting. How tough was the adjustment working in Japan? Someone's asking, was it intimidating wrestling some of the legends over there?
I think in 2002, when I first went out there, it certainly was intimidating anytime I, had high-profile matches with some of the legends out there. My nerves definitely would get the best of me sometimes, but the adjustments certainly different because when you go to Japan, you're being brought out there. There's a difference. You're either being brought out there as a student or you're being brought out there, as like the upper talent. So the first time I went out there, I was brought in as a student. So it's like an entire lifestyle. We travel on the bus, and we're also like the ring crew. We're setting up the ring and tearing down the ring and just being a part of every aspect in between that. And even after our wrestling matches, we were trained to go directly, directly to our teachers or our trainers and, get our feedback from it. It was just a different lifestyle that just affected us, day to day. Whereas compared to out here, everybody's balancing a job and you go to practice 1 or 2 times a week, where out there in Japan, we're out there, training 5 days a week and, packing up everything to, go on a tour for the weekend and take care of everybody.
Hurricane Maverick is asking, how was Gail Kim to get along with?
Gail's always been great. Yeah, she's always been great. And any of the times that Impact has ever come to town, I'm able to like go backstage and say hi to Scott and say hi to, D'Lo and people I worked with, and Gail's always there. So yeah.
And someone is wondering, who was your toughest opponent in Harrison? I used to love watching tapes of that promotion. Aquino and Mariko Yoshida were awesome.
Yeah, Arceon was the first company I went out to in 2002. And yeah, Mariko and Aquino, definitely senior talent there. Linus Asuka was Linus Asuka was the one like I would always get nervous around because she was treated like she was treated like the queen, like not only with like for all the wrestlers in Arceon, but like fans went crazy for her and like just treated her like royalty. So anytime I had to do anything involving like with any of her matches, that was a complete ball of nerves.
Heavy J is wondering if you have a personal favorite match of your own.
I have several, but like, they're for different reasons because every match is different. I think like one of my favorite earlier matches was a draw with Rai Tamada in Arceon because that was like that was like one of the first matches that I was like really proud of. Any of my matches in Shimmer with Mischief were really fun just because we got to get like real creative with her flexibility in the ring. Where like I just get to bend her in like all sorts of like disgusting ways that you don't normally get to do like in pro wrestling. And like as far as like entertainment stuff, I think one of my favorite matches is actually my match with Thunder Kitty.
And someone on here is mentioning that your Sexy Star match in Lucha Underground might be his favorite ever women's match. Any thoughts on her? She had some controversy for a while there, allegedly shooting on somebody down in Mexico.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of all that. And at the time, like I worked with Sexy Star enough to kind of like know what like her personality is like and what she's like. And I did watch that match that you mentioned that like had all the controversy around it. And realistically, like, do I think she did that do I think she did that on purpose? I actually don't. I've learned that, she's, there's been times where she's got so much adrenaline going that either the excitement or her anger or whatever is going on, will get the best of her, and has act out on it. And it's happened to me with her in matches that I've wrestled with her, where she gets too excited and actually does something that almost injured me. So no, I don't think it was intentional or on purpose at all, with Sexy Star. But, it's just one of those situations where people need to just really control their emotions, no matter what's going on, either in the ring or outside the ring.
Yeah, I think that was a match against Rosemary, now that
right.
I'm remembering about it. Catherine is bringing up that she really liked your matches with Sarah Del Rey, especially your early matches with her on the California Indies and Shimmer. She thinks those matches were super influential on the current modern day women's wrestling. What is your opinion?
I might have to agree, where I feel like, we were certainly a little bit ahead of our time. And it kind of goes back to, when I would have my WWE tryouts, I was applying for a job that just didn't exist at the time. So I'd have to agree. I feel like, we had really good training. We had really good trainers, and, we just worked really hard, and we were just definitely more focused on the wrestling portion of it in the ring, and very much less entertainment.
Now, I'm pretty sure I already know the answer to this, but Peter Taylor is asking if you'd be interested in working in any capacity with either WWE or AEW as you're a professional wrestler. I would only assume yes.
I would be interested on maybe an agent capacity, as far as talent being on television. I currently don't have any interest in being on TV.
Now, this name has come up a few times. Your Rashia Saeed gimmick came up with the name
Dutch Mantel.
Okay, yeah. You mentioned that earlier.
Right.
As far as Vince Russo, how are your dealings with him? He always gets mixed reaction on this channel, but I personally like him overall.
I like him too. Dealing with him is fine. He's always been nice. He's always been professional. Him and I have certainly had disagreements about directions of storyline or whatever, but as far as him personally, very nice guy, all positive, very cool. We still keep in touch to this day. So yeah, we have a lot of respect for each other.
Biggest Richard Cranium is asking, what is your favorite city to wrestle in?
Anywhere with nice weather.
Well, there's your answer for people wondering about Canada. She's not going to be up here until at least June.
Yeah, not at least June. There better not be 10 inches of snow. No random snowstorms. No, Canada is about those random snowstorms.
It's not pleasant, but
no, not at all. I'll never forget. There was one time where I checked into the hotel, and then woke up the next morning, came outside, and everything was snowed in. I was I didn't even hear anything outside. I didn't even I couldn't. There was no way I knew that the weather had changed.
The worst part is driving in it, and when it's cold out, having to shovel off your car and heat it up.
Gosh, I got some wrestling stories on that too. Oh my God.
Robert wants to know, who was your favorite female wrestler growing up?
I would say growing up, I think my favorite female wrestler was definitely Sherry Martel. definitely Sherry Martel, and maybe not so much for her wrestling. I think I just like really loved her fashion. I would really just watch Sherry Martel to see what she was going to wear.
Well, you almost look like a manager in some of those fancy outfits, those goth style outfits. Could you see yourself managing?
Oh yeah, I totally would. I would have so much fun doing that because I just know like so much of my stupidity would come out.
Hurricane is asking, what languages do you speak?
Primarily English. I'm not fluent any other language. However, I know a lot of Spanish and I know a lot of Japanese. So I definitely know enough in those two languages to get by.
Now, I'll ask this in a polite way. You may very well be married, but there's a lot of people on here asking what type of guys you like.
Smart, walks on the beach. How do you want me to answer that?
There you go. You have to be intelligent and enjoy
walks on the beach. There you go.
Very good. As far as Tessa Blanchard, have you ever wrestled her, and where would you predict she's going to end up if you had to make a prediction?
I don't know. I don't think I have wrestled her. Gosh, I hate it when I don't know if I wrestled somebody or not, but I'm pretty sure I haven't wrestled her. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's, very easy to say that, like, she would, end up like with wherever her dad's at. But I mean, she's such a good wrestler right now. I mean, I could see her being at WWE easy.
Did you ever run into Alundra Blayze, aka Medusa, and if so, did she give you any advice?
We hung out together a lot in Japan not that long ago. Actually, a couple times in Japan. Yeah, no, she's a very good friend of mine, and we've hung out with each other a few times in Japan, some out here in Las Vegas. So I think the best time when we hung out is she came out to Japan when I was already out there, and me, her, and Rossi Ogawa did a trip. Oh my God, I was out. I can't think of it right now. But we went out in like the Osaka area and like we just went exploring and like she's got like a degree in Reiki, which is touchless healing. So she was doing like some research on that, and we just had like a great time out there.
And speaking of Alundra, her most famous WWE opponent was Bull Nakano. Robert is wondering if you ever met Bull.
Well, so yeah, so okay, so what happened was that I was backstage at a WrestleMania, and I had already, and I've worked for Rossi Ogawa in Japan, off and on for many, many years, and I was already like scheduled to return back to Japan. So when I was back home in San Francisco, I was backstage at one of the WrestleManias, and I had already known, from talking to Rossi, I had already known that Medusa had worked for him when he was at All Japan. Like Rossi was like a big part of her career back in that day. So, and I remember asking Rossi, I'm like, oh, have you talked to her? Like, and he says like, oh no, I haven't like talked to her in a long time. I'd love to get connected with her. So then I remember, they do, how WWE does the like the award show before WrestleMania. Medusa won an award and like gave a shout out to Rossi Ogawa, and I was like, oh my God. And then so when I was backstage the next day, I just went like straight up to her and I was just like, hey, I know you don't know me, but I work for Mr. Okawa. And she's probably like looking at me like all crazy. I'm like, no, I swear, like he wants to get connected with you, whatever. So long story short, went back to Japan, got them connected. And then at the next big Cork and Hall show, Ogawa did, basically it was a big destiny meeting. It was a big destiny meeting featuring Medusa and Bull Nakano coming face to face in the ring for the first time in 20 years. So I had a part in that.
Very cool. Radio Underground wants to know the worst injury you've had in your wrestling career and how long did it take to recover?
The worst injury is my collarbone. My collarbone popped out in Shimmer. It didn't pop out all the way, but it dislocated like a little bit. And I mean, to this day, I don't feel like I'm still fully recovered. I have less movement in my right shoulder than my left. And you can't really like see it, but this collar, well, I guess you can see it, but you can see how this pop sticks out a little bit farther out than that one. This one is more in, and this one is settled kind of a little bit out or not in place. Doctor said that they think surgery would do more damage than good. So it's left like that.
You look like you have an upper chest that could be chopped pretty hard and you wouldn't feel it. Very, like, thick
Yeah.
And what's your favorite food to both cook and eat?
Swedish pancakes.
Interesting. I don't even know what those are.
They're small, but really, really like paper thin pancakes. And they're really good.
And what are your thoughts that Stardom was reportedly offered a WWE buyout?
I think it's great, and I think it's absolutely appropriate. There's so much talent, that has come from Stardom, or quite frankly, like, Rossi Ogawa. So I think that's like that's very appropriate. For example, I was the connection that brought EU, Mayu, and Kari to Lucha Underground. And from them being there, they got, a look in the Americas, particularly WWE. Rossi is a businessman, and he, likes to produce stars.
And as far as your social media and anything you want to plug on here where fans could follow you or buy your shirts or anything like that, where could they do that?
Actually, they can purchase all of my wrestling matches. I have literally all my wrestling matches on clickwrestle.com. So www.clickwrestle.com. All of my Shimmer, like pretty much almost my entire history, I have on clickwrestle.com. So that'd be a great source to look into all of like my favorite matches, all my favorite like wild, insane matches that I've ever had in the past.
And I know you're on Twitter. Your Twitter handle isn't coming to me offhand. Maybe you could share that with us.
Yeah, my Twitter handle is Future Legend CF. Again, it's Future Legend, then the letter C and F. Originally, CF stands for Chick Fight, but Future Legend CF. And then my Instagram handle is Real Future Legend.
And finally, Daryl wants to know, who would your dream match be with?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. Actually, you know who it would, it's always the same answer too. My dream match would be with Lioness Asuka. I only got to tag with her in Arceon. I never got to wrestle her one-on-one. So I was really upset that I never got that opportunity. But I got to like tag with her and kind of be a part, of her clique and her storyline out there. But that will always be my same answer.
Well, thank you very much for speaking with us. I don't think I've ever met you in person, but it's a pleasure to finally meet you. Hopefully one day we can see you up here in Canada.
Yeah, right? If Canada will open their doors, but, I respect you guys for not.
I think we have far less cases up here, but our rules are very strict. And they're not really letting up on them, unfortunately, for us.
But as you should be, though. Like I respect that. I get that. We were hearing about situations and stories. At least I was from my friends in Japan that I still keep in contact with, and it's just crazy how we're not like. I just feel like we could be like learning from like what all the other countries had to deal with before it got like really serious over here, because trust me, like I want life to go back to the way it was very, ASAP too.
Well, I'll let you close this up with whatever message you want to say to the fans to close this off. Thanks again very much for speaking with us. It was a pleasure hearing from you.
Hey, so thank you for having me on the show. Thank you to all the fans. Thank you for your questions. I hope I was a good time. I hope I was entertaining. Follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. Instagram's Real Future Legend, and hope to speak to you soon.